My name was Amir. I was a Qadi in Berlin, a figure of authority in a court that thrived on the weight of tradition. I opened the sacred texts daily, delivering sentences steeped in Islamic law, a role society revered, but that I carried with a growing sense of despair. Beneath my austere exterior, an internal tempest raged, and as I recited the same prayers, a haunting emptiness began to surface. I clung to my faith, yet, deep inside, I questioned every tenet I had ever embraced. One fateful morning, while presiding over judgments, the world around me faded. In an instant, light enveloped me, a brilliance so profound it obliterated the shadows. There, in that sacred luminosity, stood Jesus. He called my name. His voice shattered the confines of dogma and delivered a truth I had long ignored: the existence of a spiritual battle, a fight for my very soul, unseen yet tangible. When I returned, this message of divine intervention clashed violently with everything I knew, marking me as a heretic. Colleagues turned away, community shunned me, and a once proud Qadi felt the weight of isolation crush him. Yet, a flicker of curiosity ignited in the depths of my heart. Who was this Jesus? What was the truth he revealed? Could it transcend the dogma I was taught to uphold? In secret, I began to search. I delved into the very scriptures I once defended against all scrutiny, finding a new language for the peace I felt in prayer. There, among whispered conversations with fellow seekers, I uncovered a new community that embraced me, a band of souls liberated from the chains of expectation, each on their own quest for truth. As fear gnawed at my conscience, I realized that I was being called for a greater purpose. And so, in this moment, I invite you to join me as I recount my journey from darkness to light, to a revelation that transformed not only my understanding of God, but the very fabric of existence itself. Before we continue, share with me in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I want to connect with each of you beyond the shadows. And if your heart echoes the truth of Jesus, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. What I'm about to unveil is more than just a story. It's an awakening. Together, let's walk into the light. The atmosphere in the Berlin courtroom was charged with a palpable sense of tradition and responsibility. As a Qadi, I had always approached my duties with a deep respect for Islamic law, believing inherently in the principles that shaped my life and my community. Yet, as I prepared to pass judgment on a case that weighed heavily on my heart, a storm of doubt swirled around me. Despite the outward tranquility of the court, I felt an uncomfortable dissonance within, a whisper of discontent against the backdrop of spiritual obedience that permeated the air. As I pronounced this sentence, a profound weariness washed over me, dragging me into a state of introspection that felt almost surreal. The rituals that had once granted me confidence now seemed suffocating, and the responsibilities that came with my position began to feel like chains rather than a calling. My thoughts drifted, questioning if the rigid structures of faith I upheld truly reflected the love and grace I had been taught to reverence. It was then that everything changed. I was swept into an unexpected near-death experience that pulled me away from the courtroom, plunging me into a realm of darkness and light. In that void, I felt an excruciating stillness before a luminous presence emerged from the shadows. It was Jesus, radiating a warmth that enveloped me. He called my name, and in that moment, the layers of confusion began to peel away. I could feel the love emanating from him, but what struck me the most were the revelations that followed. Jesus revealed the hidden agendas that drive a wedge between hearts, the manipulation perpetrated by the elite who thrive on division and fear, He showed me how easily the deception of power can distort faith, turning it into a weapon to control and divide rather than unite. This was the spiritual war that I had felt but had not fully understood. As the weight of these revelations settled in, I realized how far removed from the truth I had become. The vision illuminated the struggles faced by people worldwide, the wars fought over ideologies that stifle compassion and understanding. I saw how leaders exploit their positions to foster discord, creating facades of righteousness while neglecting the soul of humanity. It was overwhelming, yet I felt empowered with every passing moment. Knowledge like this demanded to be shared. It ignited something within me that I had buried deep under expectations and traditions. When I awoke in the courtroom, the stark reality of my surroundings flooded back. The scent of polished wood and the solemnity of my role felt as real as the revelations I had just experienced. My heart raced, filled with an urgent desire to act. I knew I had to confront the deception that had kept me and others from understanding the depth of our faith. Each word I spoke from that moment forward could help dissolve the barriers that separated us. Yet doubt began to creep in again. How would my community perceive my awakening? Would they reject me, calling me a heretic? Faced with these fears, I made a choice. I would not remain silent about the spiritual battle that needed to be fought. I started to reach out to those around me, initiating conversations about faith, love, and the urgent need for awakening. I began to speak of the truths I had seen, urging others to question the narratives that had held us captive for too long. The journey before me was fraught with uncertainty, but I felt an unyielding commitment to advocate for understanding and compassion amidst a world that so desperately needed it. The ties of my past would not hold me back any longer. The spiritual awakening that was unfolding inside me required courage, and I was finally prepared to embrace the call. As a Qadi in Berlin, I have always been regarded as a figure of authority, someone who embodies severity and integrity. At 40 years old, my life has revolved around interpreting and applying the law with unwavering commitment. I've often worn my austere appearance like armor, believing it conveyed the seriousness of my role. Yet beneath this carefully crafted facade, I felt an oppressive weight pressing down on me, a sense of being trapped in a position that no longer satisfied my soul. The expectations placed upon me by my community loomed large, shaping my identity and leading to a deep internal struggle. While I commanded respect, I often grappled with the realization that adherence to rigorous dogma was not bringing me the fulfillment I craved. My prayers that once drew me closer to God now felt increasingly hollow, echoing in the emptiness where faith should have resided. Each time I took my seat in the court, I felt the burden of my position as both a reminder of my responsibilities and a chain that constrained me, limiting my understanding of what could be. Then came the incident that would change everything. I found myself embroiled in a particularly difficult case, one that tested my resolve and my interpretation of justice. The courtroom was thick with tension as I delivered my ruling. Suddenly, a sharp pain seized my chest, and before I knew it, I was on the floor, slipping into unconsciousness. It was during this near-death experience that I was transported to a realm beyond understanding, a place suspended between darkness and an unfathomable light. In that shadowy space I encountered Jesus. His figure radiated warmth and compassion, breaking through the despair that surrounded me. As I stepped closer, I felt a surge of love envelop me, igniting something deep within my spirit. Jesus called my name softly, and in doing so, revealed the hidden agendas that manipulate beliefs and perceptions in our world. I saw the deception woven into the fabric of society by the elite, who fostered division and fear to maintain their grip on power. The magnitude of these revelations struck me like a lightning bolt, illuminating the spiritual war unfolding around us, one that I had sensed but could never fully articulate. Upon awakening in the hospital, the clarity of my encounter burned brightly in my mind. I recognized that my experience was not just for me. It was a call to action, a call to awaken to the truths that many are too fearful to confront. Each revelation I had witnessed compelled me to share my story, even if it meant risking the respect and stability I had built in my life. I could no longer ignore the urgency to speak about the manipulation that keeps people entrenched in ignorance, diverting their truths from what's truly important. As I contemplated this mission, the tension between my newfound insights and the expectations of my community swirled within me. Would they understand the need for awakening, or would they label me a heretic? The path ahead was uncertain, but the desire to bring light to the darkness felt too important to ignore. As I stood in the quiet of my study, preparing for my evening prayers, an unsettling emptiness began to envelop me. Despite the solemnity of the moment, I found myself grappling with doubts that emerged like shadows creeping across my mind. The familiar rituals that had once provided comfort now left me feeling hollow, echoing back an emptiness I couldn't ignore. I was a Qadi, respected in my community for my adherence to our traditions, yet, with each prayer, I questioned the very dogmas I had followed for so long. This relentless cycle of uncertainty deepened my sense of isolation, and in those moments of silence, the fear of spiritual disloyalty gnawed at my spirit. The more I prayed, the more I felt a dissonance between the teachings I preached and the spiritual truth I yearned for. My heart ached with questions that felt too dangerous to voice, raising doubts about the authenticity of spiritual authorities around me. Were they guiding us towards enlightenment or ensnaring us in a hidden agenda of control? The thought that our beliefs might be manipulated by the elite to suppress genuine connection with God sent shivers down my spine. I found myself yearning for something more, a truth that would not only satisfy my restless soul, but also liberate me from the chains of conformity. It was during one of those turbulent nights, as I wrestled with my fears and questions, that my life took an unexpected turn. That night, I experienced a profound event that changed everything. I remember lying on my bed, the weight of my doubts heavy upon me, when suddenly I felt my consciousness slip away. It was a near-death experience that whisked me away to a realm beyond our understanding, a dark space that contrasted sharply with the radiant light that soon followed. In that luminous presence I encountered Jesus. His very essence seemed to illuminate the darkness surrounding me, filling me with warmth I had never known. Jesus looked into my soul, and in that gaze the revelation unfolded. He revealed the hidden agendas twisting the fabric of our beliefs, how societal structures had been manipulated to maintain power through deception and fear. I saw visions of the spiritual war playing out across the globe, conflicts fueled by misunderstanding, leaders employing division to solidify their control over the masses, and the relentless pursuit of truth stifled by false narratives. The urgency of these messages struck me hard. I realized that I had a role to play in countering the deceptions that ensnared so many. My heart raced as I fully grasped the significance of my awakening. Awakening to these truths propelled me toward a new mission. I felt an overwhelming compulsion to speak out, to share the love and light I had encountered. Yet, as I returned to consciousness, A deep sense of fear choked my resolve. Would my community accept this shift in my beliefs? Would I face scorn as a heretic for embracing a faith that diverged from the teachings I had once upheld? These questions spiraled through my mind, pressing down on me as I began to comprehend the weight of my newfound knowledge. The spiritual war was raging, and my voice had to join the chorus of those advocating for the truth. What awaited me on this path? I could only take one step forward at a time, fueled by the light of revelation and the hope of awakening not just for myself but for others yearning for connection and understanding. As I stood in the courtroom, the atmosphere was thick with tension and anticipation. I, Amir, a respected Qadi, was tasked with delivering a verdict on a case that held significant weight in the community. This responsibility was both an honor and a burden. My heart raced, not only from the gravity of the decision, but also from the growing realization of a disquiet within me. I could hear the murmurs of the gathered crowd and feel the weight of their expectations. Yet, beneath my composed exterior, I grappled with a profound sense of emptiness that had taken root over the years, a feeling that my faith had devolved into mere obligation. The words of the ruling escaped my lips, but as I pronounced the sentence, the room began to spin. Suddenly, pain struck like lightning through my chest, and darkness engulfed me. I collapsed to the floor, slipping away from consciousness. What came next was not the end I had anticipated. Instead, I found myself in a vast void, surrounded by silence and shadows, when a brilliant light broke through, illuminating everything despairing around me. In that radiance stood Jesus. His presence radiated love and understanding, and I felt a warmth enveloping me, welcoming me into a space of unconditional acceptance. As I approached him, the heavy burdens of doubt and fear lifted, replaced by an overwhelming sense of clarity. Jesus called my name, and in that moment, the veil between truth and deception began to unravel. He revealed to me the hidden agendas that clouded the world around us, the elite's manipulation of beliefs, using fear to maintain their hold over societies. I witnessed firsthand the spiritual war that raged on the fringes of our consciousness, a battle fought not with weapons, but with ideas, dividing hearts and minds. The giants of power thrived on our ignorance, perpetuating a cycle of conflict and suffering, and I saw how deeply they were entwined in our daily lives. These revelations struck me with a force that was both enlightening and painful. I realized that much of what I had accepted as truth had been shaped by societal pressures and fear of deviation. The war one had felt in my own faith reflected a much larger conflict, one that placed the light of awareness against the shadows of ignorance. I felt compelled to break through these illusions, not just for myself but for the countless others trapped in the same cycles of deception. The urgency of this mission erupted within me, fueling a desire to share my experience and help awaken others to the truth. When I regained consciousness in the courtroom, the transition back to reality felt jarring. My colleagues loomed over me, their faces etched with concern, but the warmth of Jesus' message clung to me like a protective cloak. I could no longer remain silent about the truths I had witnessed. I felt a powerful calling to advocate for those who struggled with the same questions I had pondered for so long. Yet, I also faced the gnawing fear of rejection from my family and community, people I cared about who would likely see my transformation as a betrayal of our shared beliefs. This conflict weighed heavily on my heart, but I knew that every moment I hesitated became a moment lost in the fight for truth, a fight I was now determined to join. When I finally returned to consciousness, The sterile smell of the hospital flooded my senses, and confusion enveloped me. I sat up, heart racing, only to be met with the concerned faces of my colleagues and the unsettling realization of my surroundings. But the momentary peace shattered quickly as I faced the grim reality of what had unfolded. After my near-death experience where I had encountered Jesus and been flooded with profound revelations, I was back in a world that felt foreign and hostile. The warmth of his presence faded as I felt the cold, hard truth of the judgment that awaited me. The whispers began almost immediately. Colleagues, once friends, now eyed me with suspicion and disdain. I quickly became the subject of hushed conversations, branded a heretic for the beliefs I had embraced after my encounter. The weight of their scorn pressed down on me, amplifying the feelings of guilt and isolation that had already taken root in my heart. I had stood in the light of truth, yet here I was, shrouded in darkness, grappling with the consequences of my awakening. The fear of alienation gnawed at me, forcing me to confront the chasm that had developed between my former life and this new reality. I had always been a pillar of my community, a respected Qadi, known for my strict adherence to the law and spiritual teachings. Now I felt like a ghost haunting the very corridors I had once walked with pride. As I moved through the motions of my responsibilities, I couldn't escape the feeling of disconnect. Each decision felt heavier, caught between my newfound truth and the traditions that dictated my role in society. The internal conflict grew, a battle that mirrored the spiritual war. One had glimpsed in my encounter with Jesus. I remembered his words, the love in his eyes, and knew this was a fight worth having, yet I felt powerless against the forces that sought to silence me. The tension boiled beneath the surface with every passing day. Every time I faced my students, I recalled their innocent curiosity, their eagerness to learn. How could I continue teaching when I suspected the very foundations of belief they were learning about were rife with manipulation? The elite propagated hidden agendas, using religion as a tool to stifle genuine spiritual inquiry. It was deeply troubling to think of the thousands of souls wandering in darkness, unaware of the truth that could liberate them. The weight of this realization became a burden, pulling me deeper into despair, while simultaneously igniting a determination within me to break free from the shackles of deception. And yet, amid this turmoil, glimmers of hope began to emerge. I found solace in quiet moments of reflection, seeking guidance from Jesus through prayer, even in the face of accusations. I imagined gathering in small circles to share what we had learned, to embrace the love that had once filled my heart. I envisioned a community blossoming from the very doubts that had plagued my soul, where we could openly talk about our struggles and the urgency of our spiritual awakening. While the fear of rejection loomed large, the call to embrace and share the truth became increasingly clear. The road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but I recognized that the awakening I had experienced was only the beginning, urging me forward into the light. Driven by a compelling curiosity about Christ, I began a secret exploration that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. As a Qadi respected within my community in Berlin, I had always devoted myself to Islamic teachings, viewing them as the ultimate path to truth. However, the spiritual war that raged within me pushed against the confines of dogma, urging me to seek answers beyond the traditional walls I had known. Late at night, when the world around me was quiet, I found myself turning to the Bible, reading passages that challenged my understanding and shook the foundations of my beliefs. The words I encountered echoed in my mind, igniting a curiosity I could no longer ignore. I dived deeper, seeking out testimonies of Christians, stories of transformation and awakening that resonated with my own struggles. With each testimony, I felt a sense of connection, an affirmation that I wasn't alone in my search for truth. I discovered a small group of converted Muslims, a hidden community in Berlin that had found their way to Jesus. They welcomed me warmly, offering friendship and support, a lifeline amidst the turmoil of my inner crisis. Through their encouragement, I began to see the threads of deception that had kept many of us in the dark for so long. As I participated in their gatherings, sharing my own experiences and listening to theirs, I felt a shift within me. Each story revealed the hidden agendas that the elite propagate to maintain control, how they shape our beliefs and manipulate our fears to keep us divided. The more I learned, the clearer it became that this was more than just personal exploration. It was a collective awakening. I began to understand that the spiritual war was not merely an internal battle, but a global struggle against forces that perpetuate ignorance and fear. The urgency of this revelation fueled my desire to share what I had discovered. Yet, with this awakening came an ever-present fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of losing my identity, and fear of rejection from my family and community. I wrestled with the implications of my beliefs, questioning if I could truly step away from the traditions that had been my guiding light for so long. What would my family think? Could they accept this new path? Or would they cast me aside as a traitor to our faith? Each moment of doubt threatened to consume me, yet I knew I could not turn back. The truth I had found was too powerful, too vital to be silenced by fear. Determined to forge ahead, I committed myself to this journey with Jesus as my guide. I sought to uplift others who were still trapped in fear and confusion, to help them awaken to the truth of their own experiences. I began to speak out more openly about the spiritual war at hand, the need for unity in a world filled with division, the importance of challenging the narratives that keep us from understanding our shared humanity. Through this mission, I hope to not only reclaim my own truth, but to assist others in their spiritual awakenings, illuminating paths for those lost in the shadows. In doing so, I felt a profound sense of purpose emerging from my previously defined identity, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Embracing prayer to Jesus brought a profound peace that I had not felt in years. As I closed my eyes and spoke to him, I found comfort in the silence and love that enveloped me. It was a strange paradox. The very act of turning to Jesus filled my heart with warmth, yet a storm of fear raged within me. I knew that this journey towards faith could lead to a fracturing of the ties that bound me to my family and my cultural heritage. The thought of losing them haunted my prayers, and I often asked for guidance to reconcile my newfound beliefs with the life I had always known. As I delved deeper into my spiritual practices, I felt the echo of tradition grow faint. Each moment spent in prayer reinforced the idea that my quest for truth was sacred. But it also intensified my fears. I listened intently as my family shared stories of our faith, clinging to the familiar while feeling increasingly alienated. The specter of disapproval loomed large over me. I often found myself wrestling with the tension between the peace I experienced in my relationship with Jesus and the apprehension of how my family would react if they discovered my beliefs. Would they see me as a betrayer of our shared history, or could they somehow understand my need for spiritual awakening? Despite these fears, I couldn't deny the urgency within me. My experience had opened my eyes to the spiritual war that rages in the world. A battle for souls fought not just through physical means, but through the very ideologies we accept. The hidden agenda of those in power became clearer to me with every prayer. I realized how the elite manipulate religion and culture to maintain control, often feeding off the divisions they create. This revelation ignited a fire within me, compelling me to speak out against the deception. It became increasingly clear that the truth must be shared, that I had a responsibility to help others navigate the darkness. As I began to find my voice, I also sought connection with others who had undergone similar awakenings. I joined small groups of individuals who had left behind oppressive traditions and embraced a deeper faith. Each gathering became a safe harbor, where we shared our struggles, our fears, and the revelations we had experienced. Together, we explored the complexities of the modern world, examining how social issues, wars, and manipulation all tied into the spiritual battles we faced. I was no longer alone in my journey. I was part of a collective awakening, a movement determined to challenge the narratives that kept us shackled in ignorance. Yet with every step forward, the fear of losing my family lingered like a shadow. The idea of stepping away from the traditions that had defined my existence was daunting. I wanted to share the love and truth I had found in Jesus, yet the potential for alienation filled me with dread. I often found myself praying for wisdom, seeking guidance on how to bridge the gap between my old beliefs and the new path I was forging. As I sought to reconcile these conflicting forces within me, I felt an unwavering determination to honor the truth that had been revealed to me, understanding that the journey ahead would require both courage and grace. As I sat in the courtroom, the weight of my responsibilities pressed down heavily on my shoulders. My role as a Qadi had always defined me, but as I prepared to pass judgment on a case that straddled the line between justice and mercy, I felt a flicker of uncertainty ignite within me. It was in those moments of silence, just before I spoke, that the internal struggles I had been wrestling with for so long rushed to the forefront. The sense of having served my community well began to dissolve, replaced by the gnawing awareness of my own spiritual war, a battle I had fought in silence, feeling the emptiness seep deeper into my soul. Then everything shifted. I collapsed in front of the stunned audience, slipping into a state that felt both unfamiliar and strangely comforting. In that near-death experience, I found myself enveloped in darkness, a realm lacking both time and space. But then light broke through, overwhelming in its brilliance. In that light stood Jesus, radiant and powerful, his presence filled with love and truth. He called my name, breaking through the silence that had shackled my spirit for so long. In that instant, everything I had previously clung to faded away. The facade of confidence I'd built was peeled back to reveal my deepest fears and aspirations. Jesus began to speak, not in words but through revelations that surged into my consciousness. I understood how the hidden agendas of the elite manipulated our beliefs and fostered division among us. I witnessed how society's structures were designed to maintain the status quo, to stifle genuine spiritual growth and understanding. The deception lay in the very fabric of our existence, feeding us lies that kept us at odds with one another and blocked our paths to genuine connection. As I absorbed these revelations, I felt a sense of purpose awaken within me, a realization that my experience was not meant solely for myself, but as a message to be shared. When I returned to the present, the courtroom buzzed with anxiety and confusion, but I had been changed forever. The truth clamored within me, begging to be released, while the fear of persecution loomed large in my mind. My community, my family, and my colleagues, what would they say? Would they accept this new understanding of faith that had blossomed within me? Or would they cast me aside, branding me a heretic? I could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on me, and yet, the passion for spreading this newfound awakening consumed my thoughts. I faced a decision that would determine the trajectory of my life. Over the following days, I began to navigate the treacherous waters of faith, adamant about sharing the truth, even amid the tension. I started seeking out fellow believers who had undergone similar awakenings, those who, like me, felt the tug of a spiritual war around them. Our conversations became lifelines, discussions about how we could support each other in breaking free from conventional narratives. It dawned on me that this mission was not just personal. It was a calling to rekindle the faith that so many had allowed to fade under the weight of societal expectations. Together, we spoke about the urgency of confronting these hidden agendas and how necessary it was to stand as beacons of truth. Despite the risks, I felt a profound commitment to this path. With every gathering, the environment transformed. I witnessed the flicker of hope in others' eyes as we shared our experiences, and I felt that together we could amplify our voices against the deception that held us captive. I no longer wanted to hide in silence. The awakening I had received bore too much significance to keep to myself. Each encounter was a reminder of the love and light that Jesus had shown me, a clarion call to act amidst the darkness that shadows our world. I understood that the spiritual battle wasn't just exterior but also internal, and in this fight for truth, the time to speak out was now. In a moment of profound clarity, I made the decision to renounce my old identity. As I contemplated the journey that had brought me to this point, I recognized that changing my name was more than just a symbolic act. It was a declaration of my newfound commitment to Christ. I was no longer the Qadi burdened by the weight of expectations. I was Amir, a man reborn in faith and purpose. Each time I spoke my new name, I felt the chains of my past start to loosen, allowing for a radical awakening within me. This was a liberation that resonated not just within my spirit but echoed throughout the world, pressing against me. The struggle to embrace this transition was not without its challenges. As I began to share my testimony with others, the ever-present threat of backlash loomed overhead. Colleagues I had once respected looked at me with disdain, and whispers of heresy quickly spread within my community. Yet, even amid the tension, I felt a fierce determination to stand firm in my convictions. I was driven by the revelations I had received during my near-death experience. Insights regarding the hidden agendas of the elite that manipulate our beliefs for power and control. I could no longer remain silent while the deception suffocated the truth I had come to know. In the weeks that followed, I began serving those who were also searching for meaning, embracing opportunities to connect with others facing their own spiritual crises. The faces of those I encountered reflected my past struggles, and in them I saw the longing for truth I had once felt. I made it my mission to encourage open discussions about faith, to create safe spaces where questions could be explored without fear of judgment. I was discovering a community of fellow seekers, believers unwilling to accept the narratives imposed upon us by those in power. Our collective yearning for understanding formed a bond that fortified our resolve against the spiritual war we now recognized surrounding us. Each conversation reignited the fire within me, pushing me to delve deeper into the complexities of our shared existence. We explored how the manipulation of information had created divides in our society, fostering conflict where there should be unity. I spoke passionately about the role of technology in shaping our beliefs and the insidious ways it could be weaponized by the elite to maintain control. I warned of the dangers posed by complacency and fear, urging others to awaken to the larger forces at play in our world. This wasn't just about personal salvation. It was a call to awaken our collective consciousness, to embrace the truth that liberates. Yet, as I encouraged others, I still battled the nagging fear of rejection from my family, The ties that once bound me felt frayed, stretched thin by my unwillingness to suppress my newfound beliefs. I longed for the understanding and acceptance of my loved ones, wishing they could see the love and light that Christ had shown me. My heart ached with each thought of the potential alienation that lay ahead. However, devotion to this path overshadowed my fears, compelling me to forge ahead. I recognized that embracing my true identity and mission wouldn't just impact my life, but could inspire an awakening in those I hold dear. With every step I took, I felt closer to fulfilling the calling I had received, ready to confront the challenges that awaited, no matter the cost. Years later, I found myself thriving in a new city, a place where the echoes of my past began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of purpose and fulfillment. After my transformative experience with Jesus, I felt propelled to dedicate my life to a ministry focused on helping individuals achieve spiritual freedom. Each day in this vibrant community became an opportunity to share my story, a powerful testimony born from the depths of despair and the heights of spiritual awakening. I made it my mission to guide others toward the truth, hoping to break the chains that held them captive to deception, just as I had once been. As I led sessions and shared my revelations, I witnessed lives transform before my eyes. The faces of individuals seeking solace and understanding mirrored my own past struggles. Many entered our gatherings burdened by the weight of their own spiritual wars, feeling lost and confused. I watched as they absorbed the messages I shared about the hidden agendas at play in our society, how the elite exploit fears and perpetuate division to maintain their power. With each testimony of healing and awakening, the energy in the room would shift, transforming doubt into hope and despair into a newfound determination. But even as I found joy in these connections, a part of me remained tethered to the hope of reconciliation with my family. Memories of shared prayers and traditions often flooded my mind, and a pang of sorrow would hit me at the thought of their rejection. I longed for them to understand the journey I had taken, for them to see that embracing Jesus did not mean abandoning my heritage, but rather enriching it with a deeper, more profound understanding of faith. As I shared my experiences, I often envisioned a future where we could unite under the truth and love I had discovered. The work we did was not without its challenges. The spiritual war we engaged in was multifaceted, manifesting through societal resistance and the pervasive influence of fear. I found myself confronting external pressures, from those who wished to silence voices like mine, to the very cultural norms I had grown up with. There were times when I felt overwhelmed by anxiety, yet the strength of our community bolstered my resolve. I encouraged those around me to share their own truths, to speak openly about the journeys they had undertaken, reminding them that we were no longer alone in our endeavors. Each conversation, each testimony shared, was a reminder of why we had come together in the first place, to foster awakening. We worked tirelessly to dissect the layers of deception laid upon us, identifying the spiritual battles that kept people divided. As we delved deeper into discussions about the manipulation of belief systems and the impact of technology on our collective consciousness, I felt the urgency of our mission intensify. The truth mattered, and our pursuit of it had the potential to transform not only our lives, but also the world around us. Although unresolved fears about my family lingered, my faith in the path I was on strengthened with every shared story, and I knew I had to press on, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As I reflect on the journey that led me from a solitary hallway in a Berlin courtroom to this vibrant community of seekers, I hope you feel the same pull I did toward awakening. Each moment of doubt, Every setback has carved a deeper understanding of the urgent battle we face, the spiritual war happening all around us. It is a conflict that demands our attention, one that challenges everything we have been taught, urging us to question the narratives constructed by a world intent on division. What I want you to take away from my experience is this: you are part of something greater. Some might call it a cosmic dance or a divine plan, but in the heart of it there is an urgent call to action for all of us. Are you aware of the hidden agendas that shape your beliefs? Have you ever felt trapped by the expectations imposed upon you, yearning for the freedom to explore what lies beyond? I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Together, we can amplify our voices and inspire others still wandering in the shadows. And if this message resonates with your spirit, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond. Your subscription is not just a click, it's a commitment to uncovering more truths as they are revealed. By activating the notification bell, you ensure you won't miss essential episodes designed to illuminate the path toward understanding the spiritual battle we all must navigate. In our next video, we'll dive deeper into another powerful testimony, this time from someone who broke free from the chains of fear and embraced unconditional love through Christ. You won't want to miss this enlightening story. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. I'm Amir, and I deeply appreciate your companionship along the way. Remember, in the pursuit of truth, we walk together in light. Continue seeking and never cease to question, because the truth is always waiting, ready to be discovered.